Mr. Chair, we're live.
Thank you. And thank you all for those joining us for today, both online and in person. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of the Baldwin Park Planning Commission for February 26th at 7 p.m. If you are able to stand, please do so for the flag salute. Planning Secretary, will you please do roll call?
Thank you. Chair Peña,
Present.
Vice Chair Rodriguez. Oh, sorry, Gonzalez,
Present.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Here.
And let the record show that Commissioner Escobosa is not present.
Then is there a motion to excuse Commissioner Escobosa?
A motion?
And I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Chair Peña,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. On to verbal communications. I now declare verbal communications open. Anyone wishing to address the commission on anything other than the items listed on the agenda may come to the podium. Please take a number and we will call speakers in numerical order, and we will be restricting your comments to a maximum of 3 minutes.
Mr. Chair, we do have a speaker card as this for a Ms. Anita Diaz. Ms. Diaz, if you would approach, please, and
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Anita Diaz. I'm a Parks and Recreation Commissioner for here in the city of Baldwin Park. I understand there was some kind of an issue about this on the far edge of Baldwin Park, just south of Francisquito. There's this campus, Flanner School campus. It is within the realm of Baldwin Park, and it is an open campus, and is, as I understand, on social media, there's some kind of people want and also walking around the community around in the grounds area in the streets in that far in the southeastern area of Baldwin Park. They want a park. They need a park, and they're asking for a park. However, the school district that's in charge of that school, I guess they want to implement some kind of housing. And right now, I think it's more important that myself as a parks commissioner, and we need open spaces. We need parks. We need a place where children can go and play freely and outside, or they might not even have a backyard, or they may be constricted to within maybe a dwelling where it's just 4 walls, and just get away from the video games and electronic devices. They can go out and get some air and play and run and enjoy themselves. And also for adults as well, as they can have a walking space, a walking ground. They can walk with their animals. Sometimes going along Francisquito Avenue, you see people walking their animals in, like right now, in traffic areas. And so we ask if the Planning Commission could maybe adopt or something where they can maybe they can adopt Flanner campus to become a park, where people can access and enjoy freely open spaces, trees. They produce oxygen, and it's a very heavy traffic area there. Francisquito, Violin, and then the 10 freeway and Puente Avenue. And it's also like whenever the 605 freeway is down, Puente Avenue north-south is access from what would be like Whittier area towards Baldwin Park, incoming traffic towards Baldwin Park. And so it would be refreshing to see a park, and right there, the Flanner location. Also, some of the structures, it could also be some kind of maybe like for entertainment, for events. There would be maybe converted something architecturally. It's an older school. Maybe there's something that can be maybe refurbished or something. But we definitely need a park space in that part of Baldwin Park, in that area of the community. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you so much, Commissioner. Is there anybody else wishing to address the commission at this time? All right. Seeing no further interest, I now declare verbal communications closed. The On to the consent calendar. The lone item on the consent calendar is the meetings from the previous Planning Commission meeting. Is there any commissioner that would like to pull this item for discussion?
I just wanted to make a correction on page 3. My last name is spelled wrong. That is all.
And we would also need to update the year from 2024 to 2025.
Thank you. Noted.
So last year. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes on the consent calendar?
I'll motion.
And I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Chair Peña,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And on to public hearings. The first case being heard on the agenda is the request for consideration of a conditional use permit for the warehousing use within an enclosed building located within the industrial I zone pursuant to table 153.050.020 of the Baldwin Park Municipal Code. That location is in 13180 Spring Street, and the applicant is Nixius Technology, Inc. The case number CP 2501, and we're ready for your report.
Thank you so much, Chair. Good evening, Honorable Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the Commission. Next slide, please. Before you tonight is conditional use permit CP 25-01 to allow for the operation of a warehouse for the storage and distribution of consumer electronics within an enclosed building located in the industrial I zone. Next slide, please. The subject property is located west of Little John Street and south of Spring Street at 13180 Spring Street. The subject site is approximately 0.32 acres in lot area. The site is currently improved with an approximately 7,388 square foot tilt-up warehouse and office building. Directly surrounding the property are similar industrial and office-related uses. The Interstate 605 highway is located to the west of the property. Next slide, please. The applicant, Nixius Technology, Inc., is proposing to use the existing building as a warehouse of consumer electronics such as computer monitors, keyboards, and other electronic accessories within the enclosed building. Shown on the current slide is the existing site plan for the property. Please note there are no exterior alterations or changes being proposed to the existing industrial building as a part of this application. Next slide, please. Shown on the current slide are photographs of the interior space of the existing unit. No interior modifications are being proposed to the existing unit as a part of this request. Next slide, please. The current slide shows on-site photographs of the subject property taken by the applicant. As previously mentioned, there are no proposed additions or alterations to the exterior of the existing industrial building. Likewise, as noted in the applicant's operation plan enclosed as attachment 3 of this item's agenda packet, the applicant is proposing to store computer monitors within the enclosed building. Shipments will be delivered to and from the facility by delivery trucks, wherein no more than one delivery truck offloading or shipping products from the facility will be present at any given time. Based on these statements, conditions of approval have been included in the enclosed resolution that limit the number of delivery trucks present at the facility, as well as to prohibit the outdoor storage of products and/or pallets within the subject property to avoid any potential impacts to the surrounding properties. Next slide, please. In conclusion, staff does recommend that the Planning Commission approve Resolution PC 25-07, approving CP 25-01. Both planning staff and the project applicant are available for any questions regarding the project. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to prepare the staff report and for that presentation. So I'll open it up now to my colleagues to see if there's any questions for staff at this time. Just a quick question for staff. I understand that it's not going to be for manufacturing, nor for just and it's only going to be for distribution. But will there be any direct sales to the public?
No, it is a wholesale operation, so.
Great, thank you for that clarification. This time I'll open public testimony, so I will be inviting the applicants first to address the commission for a maximum of 3 minutes, and then we'll see if there's any questions by the commission towards.
Good evening.
And I'm sorry, I'll let you know when you start. We'll start off the timer in just a few moments. Great, you may begin now. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tony Dip. This is Peter Trin, and we are the owners of Nixus Technology, Inc. We are currently residing in the city of Baldwin Park. We're American-based consumer electronics brand and been in business for over 15 years. We are currently in the process of moving locations, as we are currently right now in the city of Baldwin Park, but we're just moving down the street. So we're currently in the process of it upon approval of the conditional use permit.
The place of business will mainly be used for wholesale and distribution only. There's no business to direct consumers. It's also our corporate headquarters, which will be also to use to service our end user customers who use our products all over the United States. So it will also operate as a technical support, customer support, and also as a place for customers if they need warranty support for repairs, and we repair their product and ship it back to the customers. That's pretty much our base of operations for that location.
Great, thank you so much. And as well as thank you for the in-depth operations plan that you submitted to the commission. Are there any questions to the applicants at this time?
I just wanted to clarify, what will be the warehouse operating hours?
It'll be from 8 to 5,
8 to 5. Okay, thank you.
Monday through Friday.
Monday through Friday. Okay.
Great, thank you so much. Are there any other members from the audience wishing to speak on this matter? And for transparency's sake, you also have an additional 3 minutes to speak on this matter. You don't have to speak, but we're here to listen just in case. Great, thank you. Great, I will now close public testimony. Want to check in if there's any additional questions from the commission. If not, is there a motion on the table to approve this project?
I'll motion to approve the project.
And I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Chair Peña,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Yes.
Motion carries.
The Planning Commission has voted to adopt PC 2507, approving CP 2501, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Baldwin Park, approving a conditional use permit for a warehousing use within an enclosed building located within the industrial I zone pursuant to Table 153.050.020 of the city's municipal code, as well as to find the same exempt from CEQA as well. So the next item on the agenda.
If I can have the presentation up, please. Thank you. Alrighty. Good evening, Honorable Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the commission. Next slide, please. Before you this evening is a request to amend section 153.220.240 of the city's municipal code relating to warehousing and wholesale sales, and to revise table 153.050.020 as it relates to permitted and conditionally permitted uses in the industrial I and industrial commercial IC zones. Staff would like to note that this item, one second. Okay, staff would like to note that this item was continued from the previous Planning Commission meeting dated September 25th, 2024 at the request of planning staff. Next slide, please. The background of this request dates all the way back to the adoption of the current zoning code. As a part of the list of comprehensive changes adopted with the zoning code updates, one aspect was the elimination of 3 previous zoning district designations: the OI Office Industrial Zone, the CM Commercial Manufacturing Zone, and the CBD Central Business District zones. These zones were removed, and all properties that were affected by this change were then recategorized into the existing I Industrial Zone, the IC Industrial Commercial Zone, or the newly established MU2 or Mixed Use 2 zones. Next slide, please. Shown on the current slide is a PDF scan of the previous zoning map for the city of Baldwin Park. The red outlined areas are the areas that were recategorized from the OI, CM, and CBD zones to the I, IC, and MU2 zones. These red areas are also the sites of various existing warehouse and/or wholesaling businesses within the city of Baldwin Park. Next slide, please. Shown on the current slide is a view of the current zoning map for the city of Baldwin Park. The red outlined areas from the previous map are also carried over for reference. Next slide, please. Along with the previous changes noted in the last slides regarding the recategorization of zoning district areas, Table 153.1050.020 of the Baldwin Park Municipal Code, herein referred to as the Land Use Table, was also revised. The most significant change of note for the subject of tonight's agenda has to do with the recategorization of the warehouse land use category as a conditionally permitted use and only allowable in the I industrial zones with the approval of a CUP. This change rendered most existing warehouse businesses as non-conforming uses, which had their status as grandfathered non-conforming businesses. Next slide, please. As noted in the previous slide, a vast majority of the existing warehouse and/or wholesaling businesses are deemed to be non-conforming, which is due to the 2012 zoning code update, either requiring that all new warehouse businesses require the approval of a conditional use permit in the case of most properties located along the 605 freeway and in the industrial properties located in the city's I zones, or rezoning their properties to a zone that no longer allows for warehouse businesses, which is the case for the majority of properties located along the 10 freeway, fronting Arrow Highway, or along the eastern corridor of Ramona Boulevard, so the IC or freeway commercial zones, for instance. These changes over the years have led to concerns voiced by local business owners and property management companies as to whether they can continue to operate as a legally established warehouse or a wholesaling business at their locations. Next slide, please. In order to determine how the city of Baldwin Park should regulate warehouse businesses in general, city staff conducted an audit of all conditional use permits that were processed by the city staff since the adoption of the 2012 zoning code changes till today. As noted in Table 1 of this item staff report, city staff found that a total of 19 applications were processed for the establishment of a warehouse business on a subject property. And of those 19 applications, 16 of them were to reestablish the continuance of a previous warehouse use. So in most instances, their business license had lapsed either due to change of ownership or expiration of a previous license, and therefore they were rendered losing their non-conforming status and had to reapply for a CUP. Furthermore, all CUPs that were processed were approved by the Planning Commission and resulted in no appeals before the City Council. Staff would lastly like to bring to the Planning Commission's attention there have been no code enforcement cases against these uses since their approval and have continuously been monitored for any active violations such as outdoor storage or excess noise generated as a part of their operations. Next slide, please. Additionally, city staff conducted a survey of neighboring jurisdictions and their respective warehousing land use regulations. As noted in Table number 2 of this item staff report, a total of 6 cities were surveyed, with all jurisdictions surveyed observed to currently allow for warehousing and/or wholesaling businesses as a permitted by right use in at least one of their industrial zones. Next slide, please. After reviewing all previously discussed information, city staff are recommending the following changes be made to the municipal code. The first set of changes would be to revise the definitions section to include 2 new definitions for warehousing and wholesale businesses. These definitions will be split into 2 subtypes: small-scale warehousing and wholesaling and warehousing uses, which are warehouse uses with a building area less than 10,000 square feet, and large-scale wholesaling and warehousing, which are uses with building areas greater than 10,000 square feet. These definitions include additional language intended to assist planning staff in further determining whether a warehouse use meets one of these 2 definitions, such as the number of delivery trucks on site during any given delivery cycle, and specific industry terms for warehousing types, such as e-commerce delivery or fulfillment centers. The second set of changes includes revising the land use table in section 153.050.020 of the Baldwin Park Municipal Code to remove the previous warehousing land use category and include the 2 new definitions. These new land use definitions would allow for small-scale warehousing uses to be a permitted by right use in the IC and I zones, while also conditionally permitting large-scale warehouse uses in those same zones. These changes allow for flexibility in existing small warehouse establishments to continue operating in the city while preserving the intent of the previous zoning code update to monitor the more impactful large-scale warehouse businesses like fulfillment centers in this instance. Next slide. In conclusion, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve Resolution PC 25-06, recommending that the City Council approve AZC 24-03. Planning staff are available for any questions regarding the request. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for that presentation. Are there any questions of staff by the commission? One question. So on page 4, under the discussion for staff, can you elaborate a little bit more about just sort of the impacts of it? So I understand that they could potentially lose their non-conforming status, and I know you touched upon it just right now in the presentation, and they have to obtain sort of the new conditional use permit. So do you mind just elaborating a little bit more about that and just sort of the impacts on this, on that matter? And that, Mike, please.
Okay,
Yes,
there we go.
Thank you.
So, similar to the applicant that came before us in the first item, their situation is basically what we've encountered in the past with most other warehouse CUPs, where it's an existing warehouse building designed for, small scale warehouse uses. But because the zoning changed, and in this case, the use requires a CUP now, and their previous license lapsed, within the last 6 months, they had to file for a CUP to reestablish that use, whereas otherwise, in most other instances where it's a building meant for that kind of use, they're just able to go in and get a license to reestablish it. So it basically removes that hurdle for these small scale operators.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
Hearing that there aren't any additional questions from the commission to staff, I will now declare the public hearing open. So anyone wishing to speak on this matter, please join us at the podium. And if you can state your name, please, and then we'll start the timer.
So yeah, Matt Nichols with Alan Matkins here. Thank you, honorable commissioners, for your time this evening. I thought that staff did a great job walking through, I think, what's being proposed here. I represent Crest Capital Partners, LLC. With respect to the property they own at 315 to 365 Cloverleaf Drive. It's an I-zoned property. It is directly impacted in a good way by this proposal. I think what I can offer is an example of how this is applied to an industrial property owner in the city, and the good that it does. And I'd like to support this and request that you recommend approval of it, but would also recommend one change for you to consider. So I'll walk you through that. This property is a 16 tenant space warehouse property, which kind of unique but common. So it's not your traditional large warehouse, but you see these in multiple areas in the city, as staff described. The unique and kind of uncertain situation that the current code places these properties in is we have multiple small size individual tenant spaces within a building. The nature of light industrial properties that have that kind of use is high turnover. The tenants come and go all the time. The city of Baldwin Park has a legal nonconforming provision that staff mentioned. I want to highlight that relative to other cities, and actually, how much time do I have? Is it 3 minutes? Okay. Relative to other cities, 6 months is pretty short. On a property like this, you have 16 spaces, for example, you have a 6-month clock running. It's tough to release spaces. You're constantly in danger of losing legal nonconforming status. What this does is it prevents the city from having to deal with 16 CUPs. It's a burden on the city, burden on the applicant, all kinds of confusion. This property with Crest, for example, Home Depot is a tenant. You have great tenants at these properties. This adds a lot of certainty for those tenants and for the owner. It's great. What the change we recommend is, rather than 10,000, have the definition 15,000 is a number. For example, at our property, we have 4 spaces out of the 16 that exceed 10 but are below 15. That is a common size that we think would fairly be under the umbrella of the non-large scale warehouse definition. And what you do is you capture Home Depot and other tenants. If not, the 6-month clock runs at all times. An owner constantly loses or has to think about, is that space going to lose legal nonconforming status? And is the city then going to have to process 4 CUPs, 16 CUPs? Saves the city time, gives the applicant certainty. It'd be a great change to consider. But we support this and hope you grant it, but consider that one change. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you
Thank you.
so much for stopping by in person.
Thank you.
Is there anyone wishing to speak on this matter? Great. Thank you so much for that clarification. So, of course, it is a very important point from the update from 10,000 to 15,000. So I'd be curious to see what staff's opinion, or at least for the perspective of the city, is on the proposed or recommended amendment on that.
Yes, so when it comes to the analysis noted in the staff report, we got to the 10,000 number just from surveying other cities and their definitions. A lot of them had size limitations a lot smaller than what we're recommending. Like for example, in La Puente's case, they had a determining factor of 5,000, which is again really small for La Puente. But as the commenter noted, there's other properties in Baldwin Park that are a lot larger than that. So we did that, and we also looked at average square footages when it related to the CUPs that are coming before the commission. And it averaged around to 10,000. And again, to the commenter's point, there are other properties that exceed it, but when we're looking at recommending, we're looking at an overall baseline, which was where we got to the 10,000.
If I may, I'd like
Yes,
to
thank you.
add one additional point, and that is, I think we did explain that those larger warehouses wouldn't be prevented from operating in the city. They would just need to go through the current process, which is to get a conditional use permit. And staff, we do feel that the larger size warehouses are worth your coming before you for consideration. Because the larger the warehouse, the more potential for an impact to the neighbors and to the community. So that's why we did set that threshold at 10,000.
Yes, and then yeah, just to reiterate the point that Nick had made. Yeah, so in the requested change in the I and IC zones, which is where most of our industrial properties are, it's those 2 tiers where both the small scale warehousing would be permitted by right, and the large scale warehousing is still permitted, but with the CUP. So in the case of Cloverleaf, they would still be able to operate. It's just the larger ones would need a CUP just based on the logic that we explained.
And I just want to clarify, I think just the impact to the community member or the sort of the stakeholder is that because these are, again, 15,000 square feet and so forth, the much more larger buildings that the larger the building, potentially the more impact they have to our various stakeholders and communities. Is that right?
Exactly.
Great. Thank you so much. Is there anybody else on this wishing to speak on this matter? All right, hearing none, I now close public hearing. I will now check in with our commissioners to see if either there is a motion to approve this project or if we'd like to open it up or to deliberate to discuss further.
I'll motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call?
If I may, just for clarification, the motion is to approve as staff recommended?
Yes.
The motion is to approve as staff recommends.
Thank you. Chair Peña,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. The commission has voted to adopt resolution PC 25-06 approving AZC 24-06, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Baldwin Park recommending that the City Council amend section 153.220.240 of the Municipal Code relating to the warehouses and wholesale sales and revise table 153.050.020 in the city's municipal code as it relates to permitted and conditionally permitted uses in the industrial I zone and the industrial commercial IC zones, and to categorically exempt from CEQA. Thank you. And just the next item on the agenda, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Next slide, please. Next slide. Thank you, and good evening, Honorable Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the Planning Commission. The request before you is for the approval of an ordinance that is required to follow up to an urgency ordinance pertaining to accessory dwelling units that was approved in November 2024. The city's previous ordinance for ADUs was adopted in 2021. An urgency ordinance was brought before the City Council in November 2024 to comply with state laws, the new state laws by January 1st, 2025, and to comply with new state laws such as AB 2221, SB 897, AB 2533, and SB 1211. An urgency ordinance was necessary to avoid nullification of the city's ADU regulations, and the proposed ordinance will memorialize the changes and that were implemented by the urgency ordinance. Next slide. 4 laws have been passed at the state level that pertain to ADUs since the city's ordinance was the previous ordinance was adopted in 2021. AB 2521 and SB 897 allow for more lenient height requirements and also allow for ADUs to be located in the front yard in extreme circumstances. AB 2533 makes it easier to legalize unpermitted ADUs and JADUs. SB 1211 increases the number of ADUs that can be placed on a multiple family lot, though it applies only to lots with existing multiple family developments. Next slide. The main purpose of the ordinance is to comply with the minimum requirements set by the state. Planning staff took the opportunity to improve upon the ADU ordinance beyond the minimum standards set by the state in 3 instances. One, it is proposed to grant a taller height allowance than the minimum set by the state, which for the attached ADU is 25 feet or the height of the house, whichever is lower. It is proposed to allow an attached ADU to match the height of the house to allow for a streamlined design that is consistent with the existing architecture. The second place is where is this. State law allows for a series of parking requirements for ADUs provided that they are located on a lot more than a half mile from transit. Staff is proposing to eliminate parking standards for all ADUs because there are no lots in Baldwin Park that are located more than a half mile from some form of transit. So the proposed change is bringing the code into alignment with current practice. And the third place is this, where the state allows for replacement parking for JADUs when they are created through garage conversion. But it is proposed to eliminate this requirement. The cost associated with replacing the garage negates the savings gained by doing the conversion versus new construction. So the requirement is a barrier to development. The ordinance, and the last note on this is that the ordinance before you is identical to the ordinance that the City Council approved in November. Next slide. This project is exempt from CEQA due to statutory exemption. Next slide. The staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve PC 25-03, recommending to the City Council to approve AZC 25-01. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you for the report and the presentation. Are there any questions of staff by the commission?
I just wanted to clarify, for the last point, I think on the PowerPoint slide, you said that the recommendation for the JADU is to not have a parking requirement, or?
So in instances where JADUs are created through garage conversion, the current code allows, the current code requires replacement of that parking.
Mm,
And so the change here would be to eliminate that requirement. So when the garage conversion comes, a JADU takes the place of the garage through conversion, there's no replacement parking.
okay, thank you for clarifying.
And just no questions for me. I just appreciate the discussion section and the analyses for each
Thank you.
bill. Hearing that there aren't any additional questions from the commission to staff now, I shall declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak, if you may please approach the podium. Seeing or hearing none, I now close public hearing. Is there a motion on the table to approve this project? Or this?
I'll motion.
And I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Chair Pena,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. The Planning Commission has voted to adopt PC 25-03, recommending the approval of AZC 25-01, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Baldwin Park recommending that the city amend section 153.040.070, 153.070, 020, 153.120.350. Oh, bear with me. 153.120.360 and 153.120.370. Try saying that a couple times. Of the Baldwin Park Municipal Code relating to the accessory dwelling units and the junior accessory dwelling units in response to the changes in state law, and approve zoning code text amend application AZC C25-0, and it is also categorically exempt from CEQA. Thank you. And then the next item on the agenda is the request for consideration of the zoning text amendment to incorporate Los Angeles County's emblem program into Chapter 127 and amend Chapter 127 and 128 to include the references which states the county's Title 11 of the County Health Code and portions of Title 8 of the County Consumer Protections Code have already been incorporated into BPMC Section 94.01, all of which enable the county to perform the cannabis inspection and enforcement actions within the city's jurisdiction. So we're all ears.
Thank you. And I'm going to keep this one brief. I didn't prepare a presentation for it just because this one is a pretty straightforward. Just to recap, as you mentioned, this is a request for a zoning text amendment to incorporate a county program into our code. So out of the county's code, we're going to incorporate it, the language right into our own code. So, and that allows the county to continue cannabis enforcement. They're already providing that service in the city, and they need this to be incorporated into their code to continue. This is something that the city council agreed to when they approved the contract for the county to continue these services in November of last year, and this was a deferral item. So that is why it's before you today. Staff is recommending approval, and this would be a planning commission recommendation for approval to the city council, not approval itself, but a recommendation. And I'm available to discuss or explain anything, any questions that you may have.
Great. Thank you for that presentation. I'll now open it up if there's any questions.
With the emblem program, do they report back to the city if there is a violation?
We do have, yes, we do have communication with public health officials, and the dialogue goes both ways. Yes.
I was just going out of curiosity. I don't remember if I looked it up directly from the Los Angeles County Emblem Program website or it was the county's website, but is there a reason that the Baldwin Park business is not listed on that? Because there's like by city, it lists the businesses and we're included, like that we're participating. We have an agreement with the county, but the actual business name is not included.
I'm not aware of the county's website or why perhaps. One guess is that we've not approved this emblem program. There would be one participant. The emblem program part of this request pertains to retail cannabis only. This is for retail cannabis. They would have an emblem or like a sticker, as you might see with like the county health sticker that goes in restaurant windows. This would be a similar sort of sticker that goes in retail cannabis business operations, and the city has only one of these types of businesses.
Do you know the name of the business?
Yes, it's Higher Ground is the name of the business.
That's who I figured. Yeah, I didn't see them listed on the website, but I don't recall which website it was. By chance, do you know how the picture of the emblem looks like?
I do not.
Okay. Or where we would be able to find that? Again, besides, I guess, going physically into the business, right?
The emblem should be visible from the outside. The intent, part of the intent of the program is to alert customers to know that they are being regulated. The county has been inspecting it for compliance, which includes safe products.
Okay, thank you.
With the one, I guess, business, has there been any notifications to date of any violations?
There's not.
Seeing that there aren't any additional questions to staff, I now declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter, please approach the podium. Yes, please. You may also state your name again.
Good evening. My name is Anita Diaz. I am Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commissioner for the City of Baldwin Park. I've noticed, I understand, we have cannabis and it's also, it's a business and it's legalized in California. And I don't know, I'm not sure, like the ordinances or zoning for that cannabis consumption, people, I noticed that in public, in bus stops, they sit on the, people, consumers of the cannabis product are consuming or smoking cannabis in the public, at the bus stops or the Foothill Transit stop, or where the other Baldwin Park Transit stops. And it's like, well, it's mostly like a public, they treat it like a lounge, like a public lounge. And those of us who are bus riders, it is somewhat of a nuisance to see something like that. I don't know if there's some kind of ordinance or the zoning where it's a non-smoking, smoking kind of a thing. And also here in the public park, it'd be like, not so much here at the new Zocalo, but sometimes I do see it at Morgan Park that again, they're smoking cannabis or consuming THC products. One also in particular, I was thinking also was at the front of the public library, right here on Baldwin Park Boulevard. There seems, I understand they have a free Wi-Fi and it's open to the community, and they go on social media, or they might be job hunting or accessing social services, which is perfectly understandable. But then again, they're consuming cannabis, they're smoking cannabis, and families go into the library. They have activities, they have story time, they have all these events and cultural things going on at the library, and it kind of interferes with a family setting and consumers consuming the cannabis product. They're smoking it or using some other THC or CBO or CBD content out in front of the library. And it's, I don't know, I just thought maybe if there's something can be maybe zoned or rezoned where they can consume it and not consume it in private property or somewhere, or within their, I don't know what means, within their vehicle, which we don't want either to. They will also be opposed a threat to public, it's a public risk if they consume that as well in their vehicle, I don't know, but, or on a sidewalk, I don't know, but it would be just my concern as commissioner and as I see this out in the open, in the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Is there anyone else wanting to speak on this matter? All right, hearing or seeing none, I now declare public hearing closed. I'd like just to open it up for our commissioners to see if they'd like to look to deliberation or to make a motion to approve.
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Chair Pena,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Yes.
motion carries.
Thank you. The commission has voted to adopt resolution PC 25-08, recommending to the city council the approval of a zoning text amendment to incorporate Los Angeles County's emblem program into Chapter 127 and amend Chapter 127 and 128 to include a reference which states that the county's Title 11 of the County Health Code and portions of Title 8 of the County Consumer Protections Code have already been incorporated into BPMC Section 94.01, all of which will enable the county to perform cannabis inspections and enforcement actions within the city's jurisdiction, as well as being categorically exempt from CEQA. Thank you. Great. So moving on just to the next item of the agenda, reports of officers. Any from staff?
Yes, I do have two staff communications. First off, there will be no meeting on the March 12th. But there very well likely be a meeting on March 26th. So I'll mark your calendars for that. And also, the city council, they voted for a replacement commissioner. So I believe by the 26th, we should that commissioner should be ready, and we'll be at a full staff.
Thank you. Well, we can't wait to have you here. A quick question. I know that this is the second time during the public hearing that we've had folks talk about that school and I just want to potentially the uses that it could be used for. I want to not to put you on the spot, and certainly it's still in its infancy, but my understanding that that is a Bassett Unified School District property. Is that right?
Yes.
And they'll have the determination whether they choose to make it into a park or sell it to a condo or sell it to a private developer, et cetera. Is that ultimately those who make the initial decision before it comes into the commission as well as the city council?
Yes. Yes, that's correct.
Great. Thank you so much.
And that would be the city of La Puente that makes the decision, or Baldwin Park?
No, that would be the school district.
Oh, the school
Bassett
district.
Unified
Ah,
School
okay.
District.
Thank you.
Great. If there aren't any further comments by the planning commission, I will now accept a motion for adjournment.
I will motion.
And I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Chair Peña,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gonzalez,
Yes.
and Commissioner Rodriguez.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And we have adjourned at 7:51. Thank you so much, everyone, and good night.
Thank you.